The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Philomath, Oregon, on your new apparatus, job number 31244. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Let's go ahead and start down at the front bumper area. Starting underneath the front bumper, attached on the frame, you'll find two forward-facing tow hooks. Moving to the passenger side, you'll find your PA system and electronic siren. Moving just inward of that location, you'll find an air horn, and on the driver's side, an additional air horn. All the way to the driver's side, you'll find on the face of the bumper your mechanical siren. Moving up onto the bumper itself, you'll find your equipment storage location and safety strap. You'll also find located in the center a covered tubbed storage for your bumper line. Moving to the outer edge of the body, you'll find your marker turn indicator, and you'll also find the turn arrow. Moving just inward of that location, this houses the cluster of headlights, the low beam on the outer edge, and the high beam on the inside. Moving up from that location, in this cluster is your emergency warning lights, forward facing, and then there are 3 windshield wipers across your seamless front windshield. Let's take a look at those locations here. We'll now take a look at the top section of the apparatus, starting with the running lights across the very top section. You also have 2 forward-facing floodlights on the right and left. There is a split light bar on the right and left side of the apparatus due to the ladder. Located on the driver's side, you'll find your Opticom system. Looking at the top of the ladder, you'll find your tip lights at the very top. You'll also find your mechanism for releasing the waterway and allowing it to be lowered to a lower section, and also your nozzle. Let's move to the opposite side for just a different view. You also have your nozzle control. Now we're at the side of the apparatus. This is the driver's side. You have your shoreline inlet, auto eject plug, and also an air inlet eject plug. Close-ups here of the shore inlet, 20 amp auto eject once again, and now we'll look at the auto eject for your air inlet. Generalized view here of the side of the apparatus. Let's talk door latches. You have a pull style door latch which is keyed, and also at all points of entry there are grab rails. Moving up from this location in the rear, you'll find a side-facing indicator for your water tank level. Let's talk about some general areas here. This is your cross lay section. We'll move all the way across here. You'll find this silver door. This is going to house equipment storage or hose storage. And then we'll look also on the side. There are plenty of grab handles at all points for gaining access upward, in addition with pull down steps. Let's go back over to that top section here. Number 1 cross lay in yellow. And then we have the number 2 cross lay in white. Your hose or EMS storage here for backboards. This compartment is accessible from both the passenger side and the driver's side. Just next to that, you're going to find over the top, I should say, a side-facing floodlight and also a grab handle. Let's start on the pump panel here in the upper left by the Pierce logo. You'll find your maintenance schedule at 150, 200, and 250. You'll also find a warning label regarding entanglement. This is your foam level A indicator. Moving into the gray section, this is going to be your master intake. Just slightly to the right, you'll find your master discharge. And then beneath the two of those gauges, you'll find test ports for vacuum and pressure. They are currently capped. As we move just to the right in the gray section, you'll find this component, Pierce Throttle Pressure Governor. And also we'll find a set of switches. We'll talk about those next because they're a little difficult to see from here. And then we'll start across the bottom. You can see number 1, number 2, front discharge, and also a 2.5-inch discharge. These are all color-coded and labeled. As we move further across, you'll find your aerial discharge in pink, and then you'll find your tank fill, which is in black. All the way to the right, you'll find your water tank level indicator. Let's move down to the next section where you'll find additional discharges. These are 2.5-inch discharges across the next section in addition with your large diameter discharge. You're also going to find your fire pump primer. There's also a note just underneath this on the placard indicating that you need at least 1,000 RPMs to operate. You have a wheel tank to pump with a gauge on it. Let's go ahead and move down to the next section. This is going to be a warning here regarding the use of your owner's manual prior to operation. Your intake relief valve adjustment with a gauge. And as we look to the discharges, you'll find two 2.5-inch discharges on this side. Next is going to be your large diameter intake with a screen on it. Moving all the way to the right, you're going to find some warning labels here regarding riding on the side of the apparatus and the hazards associated with that. And then we're going to find 2 valves on the far right. We have a close-up of these, which might be a little bit more helpful, but these are going to be turn, not pulls. And I'll talk about what those are here in the next set of images. Let's also talk a little bit about this warning label regarding pressurized caps and the associated hazard while opening. And at the very bottom here, you're going to find your foam outlet. Your foam outlet flush. This is a twist, not a pull. And in that same area, you'll find additional drains for each of those discharges. Located in the chromed area, you're going to find your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. And then all the way to the far right, your Watrous placard regarding the type of pump that you have. Your maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 PSI is in this black. These are the associated GPMs and also the RPMs associated with those PSI pressures. Let's go ahead and take a look at a close-up here of some of those items that we just talked about. First, crosslay 1, 2, front discharge, and 2.5-inch pre-connect. As we move to the right, you're going to find that foam level indicator and also that entanglement warning. And then as we move to the top, you'll find your master intake and discharge test port gauges for vacuum and pressure. And then we'll find your Pierce Throttle Pressure Governor module. Let's take a look at those switches on the far right-hand side. First, we'll start with 2 future locations, panel lights, a pump engaged indicator light, your driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, and the tip lights. Let's also move back to the left-hand side. You'll find this green indicator, do not open throttle unless light is on in green, and then an audible alarm speaker. To the right, you'll find your pump primer. And also down to the next section, we're going to take a look here at your recirculating line and also engine cooler. Remember, those are twists, not pulls. Let's take a look down at the lower section next to the Watrous plaque. You'll find your recirculating line drain and also your engine cooler drain. Back up to the very top, you're going to find your pump drain. And then just beneath that, you'll find your manual pump shift. And there is also a caution label just above that manual pump shift. This is once again your Watrous placard here regarding the type of pump is a CS, the transmission model, serial number, and various information. This is that 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. And as you can see, the things that we talked about earlier, foam outlet flush, and then 2 additional drains. This is your intake relief valve. You can see the instructions here on how to operate. 2.5-inch discharge ports here in red and blue. Let's move to some compartments now. This is just past the pump panel. You have 2 adjustable shelves and a lower shelf at the bottom. In the upper left-hand corner, this is your battery charger. When plugged into shore power, this is activated. Underneath this compartment, you'll find 2 folding wheel chocks. And just up from this location near that compartment, you'll find your DEF in a blue cap, which is a 4.5 US gallon tank. Located just over the rear tire, you're going to find a compartment here that houses an adjustable shelf. Just to the right of that, you'll find an additional compartment that has adjustable shelves. Let's move down to the next section here. This is bottle storage location in this access door. And as we move further to the back, you're going to find two adjustable shelves that are fixed, and at the very bottom, a pull-out style shelf. In this compartment, there's also a shore line outlet. This is powered when you're plugged into shore power. Underneath that, you're going to find your outrigger pads. And let's take a look at the rear of the apparatus. First, let's start in the lower left-hand corner. Also on the right, you're going to find your backup, turn, and reverse. You'll also find additional lighting to the rear. As we look upward from this location on the left side, you'll find an additional switch here for rear lighting. And then as we move all the way up to the top, this is the same indicator for the sides. This is your pump water level for water with inside your tank. Also, you have two rear-facing floods, and at the very top, you have emergency lights 360 degree. Let's talk a little bit about some compartments here. On each side, you'll find ladder storage and tool storage inside, and we'll talk about some warning labels here. Please seek the advice of those warning labels regarding electrical, riding on the apparatus, and associated hazards. There's also some compartments here that we'll talk about in the next set of images, and there's also some smaller access doors here that we'll talk about. Those are in the next set of images. There are also tow hooks located on the rear of the apparatus, right and left, just center of the large diameter intake. And then in the lower section is your aerial drain and a gauge with that. We'll also talk what's behind the roll-up door, but first let's start down in the lower left-hand corner of the apparatus. This is your license plate holder and light. Moving up from that location, the first access door is going to be your stabilizer controls. This is the high idle and also the emergency hydraulic power, in and out, up and down. There's also some hazard here regarding electrical problems in case you engage into electrical overhead wires. Let's take a little look at that cutout switch. This is those rear scene lights. This is the on-off switch for those to the rear. And then we'll look inside the ladder compartments here. These are the doors on the right and left-hand side of that roll-up door. You have pike pole storage and also ground ladders. Close up here of the rear-facing tank indicator for your water. And also in the lower corner, you're going to find a ultra-low sulfur diesel fill, silver cap fill locations. In this access door, you're going to find a rotation bearing grease valve and also your aerial emergency power and also stabilizer emergency power. There's also the hydraulic diverter override controls here. And in the lower section across the bottom, you'll find the tool to operate those in case of an emergency. Let's take a closer look here at the left-hand side here. First at that rotational bearing grease. This is a Zerk fitting. And there is also aerial and stabilizer emergency power. We're looking now at the aerial drain compartment door and also the aerial inlet. Behind this door is a ball valve for the aerial drain. Let's look in the roll-up compartment door. There is an access door here and also roll-up storage location. On the right-hand side, you have additional ground ladders here. Let's go ahead and look at the top of the apparatus. You're going to find a 3-section aerial device, aluminum. We'll now take a look at the pedestal. This is the rear of the apparatus. There are some warning labels here on the side regarding electrical and also crush. Looking at the access panels here to the rear, there are 2 access doors, and at the very bottom there is a dead man switch here regarding the use of your aerial. Let's take a look at those access panels here. First, the smaller access panel gets you access into the right and left rotation override and also a tipping hazard warning. Let's move up to the pedestal itself. On the left-hand side of the cover, inside the cover, you'll find additional warning and danger labels. We'll talk a little bit about the components in the top section here, and then we'll talk about the next set of components down in the lower section here. First, let's move over to the top of the cover, have a little understanding of some of the manufacturing specifications for setup of this 75-foot aluminum aerial ladder. There's also a load chart, Pierce adjustment specifications, a waterway under dry conditions, and a waterway under wet conditions. Let's take a look here at the top section. This is going to be your tip ladder for the DC lights. Moving down, you'll find your high idle on-off. Down at the lower section here, you're going to find your tracking lights, and we'll talk about those also as we have an image. And then we'll talk about the test indicator, which illuminates for all of your lighting to ensure that all the lights are currently lit and working. You're going to find a red caution stabilizer is not fully extended. If this is lit, indicating your stabilizer is not fully extended. This is going to be a rung alignment. It will flash and illuminate when the rungs are aligned. This is your emergency hydraulic power. Located in the center, you're going to find your water wave flow digital readout. This will also total the amount of GPMs. And on the far right, you have your hydraulic system pressure. Let's take a look at those components here, starting first with nozzle control. This is a protected switch for the stowed. There is also just beneath that going to be your stream, fog, right and left, and lower and raise. The large handles here are your ladder controls. Just above the access door, you'll find your speaker control for push to talk and also volume control. Let's take a look at the left-hand side of the ladder. You can see that there is also a ground ladder located here, and on the right-hand side, additional storage location. Let's go ahead and move up to the very tip of the apparatus. First, the tip lights on the right and left side. Located in the center area, you'll find your release for the waterway. And on the right side, you'll find your communication device. This is going to be the straight fog, left and right, and up and down controls for your master stream. On the right, once again, your communication device. There is only volume here as passive. Generalized view here of the top of the ladder looking downward at the detachable red section, and then a generalized view looking from the front to the rear section. Just underneath the ladder, you're going to find your foam tank A fill. This is a latched compartment. And then also on the top, you're going to find your water fill location. Top, this is a non-latched compartment. Let's move to the passenger side rear compartment. Adjustable shelf currently fixed, and also a pull-out style shelf. Just beneath that, you'll find the aerial outrigger pads. And as we move forward of this location, we'll find an additional compartment and also this danger regarding electroconductivity. Let's look underneath this. You'll find 2 additional locations for bottle storage or equipment. And then just above that, you're going to find an additional compartment which houses an adjustable shelf, roll-up door. This is once again that bottle storage location. Just underneath this bottle storage location in the marker light, you're going to find a couple of different things. One, this label here regarding extremely hot temperatures of diesel exhaust, and to be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pump panel. General view here. We'll break down those components next. Let's start in the upper section of this area, first with a grab handle and also a side-facing floodlight. There's also that through compartment here for board storage or hose storage from one side to the other. And as we look at the netting section here, this is the crosslays for crosslay 1 and crosslay number 2, pre-connected lines, and also your cab lift, protected switch for raise and lower, and an activate and instructions on how to use that. Also on this side, you're going to find your large diameter intake. Moving to the right, you're going to find in green your large diameter discharge, and then moving to the right in orange, you'll find your 2.5-inch discharge. Let's move down to the lower section on the right side here. You're going to find a couple of different drains, your foam flush, foam outlet, and also passenger side auxiliary inlet drain, your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. This is on the passenger side. And then we'll move also to the left. You're going to find large diameter, passenger side 2, and cross lane number 1 drains. Located behind the access door is your foam drain. Let's move to the front section of our cab. First, at all points of entry, you'll find a label across the panel here regarding the use of seat belts. And as we move forward in this section, you'll find the fill location for your windshield wipers. Just beneath this, you'll find a foot pedal for your mechanical siren. And as we move underneath the seat area, first you'll find a compartment door for access here. And as we look up above that, you'll find your seat is affixed directly to this compartment. You also have shoreline outlets behind the seat. They are all 20 amp plugs. As we move to the forward section, you're going to find a variety of different barrel and also USB 12-volt access points. Overhead, we'll talk about those components. First on the right, your siren control, and then we have some components and switches. This is your switching station here for your siren and also for your PA system, public announcement. On the left, red siren brake and also a front scene light, future switches, pull ropes for your air horns, push on and off red and white lights for the cab. We're now in the driver's section here. On the door once again, you're going to find additional warning labels. As we look onto the right side, about knee height or just beneath that, you'll find some warning labels, but most important, you're going to find some warning and hazard labels, and this yellow label here regarding the manufacture by Pierce. This has the date of manufacture, job number, gross vehicle weight ratings. It also has tire, rim, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, and also fluid capacities for all of the components, fluid capacities, and fluid types. You'll also find the VIN number located on the A pillar of the driver's side. Let's move down to the floorboard now. We're going to find a mechanical siren on the left-hand foot, and as we move to the right, you'll find your brake treadle and also accelerator. Just up about left knee height, we'll find some additional components here in silver, your main battery switch. The green section here is going to be the engine and transmission diagnostic port. It also has your ABS diagnostic, DPF regen switch, engine diagnostic, and engine inhibit for regen. Let's move up from this location. You're going to find your pump shift. There are two green indicators. One, pump engaged. Second one is OK to pump. And then you'll find instructions to go from road to pump and from pump to road. Let's move just to the opposite side of the steering column here. We're going to find mirror controls for the main mirror and also the convex mirror. As we move up onto the left-hand side of the dash, we're going to find your ignition switch, start switch. You'll also find just to the right-hand side, you're going to find a switch called EM, which stands for Emergency Master, your headlights, parking lights, and also the panel adjustment rocker switch for brightening and dimming your panel lights. To the right-hand side, we're going to find the OK for high idle, an indicator, and also the switch to engage the high idle. Let's look now to the steering column itself. You'll find additional hazard lights, comfort controls here for your steering column, and just above that, you're going to find your turn indicator, pull for flash, right and left turn. Generalized view here of the steering wheel looking forward. We'll break down those components next. Let's start with the center gauge here. First of all, general overview. As we look, we'll go through all of those gauges next, starting with first your transmission temperature. You have an oil temperature, your DEF. This is your level of DEF in the tank, and also a water temperature. There's also a tachometer, and then we'll talk a little bit on the gauges on the right-hand side. There are also some displays above and below the tach and speedometer regarding information. First, let's start with the right, miles per hour, your speedometer. You have your volts, fuel level, front air, and rear air. You'll see currently there is a red indicator lit that's also for low air indication. We'll talk about this center section here and some of the components behind this area. Moving downward, we'll talk a little bit more about the close-up here, some of these switches, and also in the lower section here, your system parking brakes, and also your Allison transmission pad. Let's first start with the first set of switches. This is going to be your engine brake. There is an on-off switch. Next to it, you'll find an engine brake for low, medium, and high, 3 future locations, and also your mirror heat. Down to the next section, we're going to find the aerial master, the aerial PTO engaged, and stabilizers not stowed. The green and red are indicators, not switches. And to the very far right-hand side is your load manager. There's also a future location if you choose or need a switch in that spot. Just beneath that, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake, push to release, and also your Allison transmission pad. Located just above that, you're going to find a climate control. Overhead of the operator, we'll talk about these individual components next. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner. We'll start with the emergency master, roof light, your front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, and upper rear warning. All of these switches have indicators when they are on, and they'll illuminate when the switch is engaged. Moving to the far right-hand side of that location, you're going to find your Opticom switch, once again with an indicator, a future location of 3 location switches, and also a siren horn selector switch, and in red, the siren brake. Let's move a little bit further over. We'll find the front scene, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene. These are all scene lights. Next to it is a future location of a switch, and then on the very far right, these are the perimeter lights at the base of the apparatus. Moving to the right, you're going to find your Pierce information regarding seat belts. Red indicating someone is in the seat but not belted. Green indicating that they're in the seat and belted. Let's move to the upper left-hand corner over the operator. You're going to find this placard regarding the height 11 feet 5.75 inches, length at 36 feet 5.5 inches, and the gross vehicle weight rating at 26.75 tons. There's also your job at 31244 on this placard also. This is the VIN on the A pillar driver's side. Generalized view of the cab section here. This is some map book or material storage. Just to the right of that, you're going to find your windshield wiper push for fluid and turn for applying the speed of your windshield wipers. We're now outside, driver's side looking inward. You can see your seat configuration. Also looking from the center section forward for that map book or storage location. As we look just behind those seats, you're going to find additional outlets here for shore power. And as we look in between the seats in the rear, you're going to find your transmission and also oil check location. This is for your daily checks. Looking to the right-hand side, you'll find this netted compartment. And let's take a look at those seats here. You can see in the very back there are 2 forward-facing seats. They both house SCBAs, in addition with shore power outlets on the right and left-hand side of the apparatus. Let's go ahead and take a look at that compartment with the netting. There is a compartment light. The switch is at the very top. From the front looking backwards, you can see those 2 SCBA seats on the center-mounted location. Congratulations, Philomath, Oregon, job number 31244 on your new apparatus. If you have any questions as to the content or any future questions, please contact your Hughes Fire sales associate. Congratulations and good luck.